At the end of 2020, we moved to Portugal.
So why did we make this life-changing move? Come on in and we'll tell you why. One of the main reasons we moved to Portugal was because we wanted to own our own house with space to grow fruit and vegetables right next to the house. Before we moved to Portugal, we lived on the south coast of England. We lived in a small rented house of 55 square metres, or about 550 square feet. We had no garage, a small garden and an allotment.
We had the allotment for 10 years. I also grew plants and vegetables that I sold on the little honesty stall that I set up in our village.
The price of property in the UK is astronomical. We wanted a property with a house and space to grow fruit and vegetables. Not just a small garden. Yes, we could have bought a house in the UK with a mortgage, but we want to be mortgage free and live in a good size, comfortable house. 6 months after we arrived in Portugal, we bought this property. We have terraces, olive trees, pine trees, cork oaks, some fruit trees. We're trying to plant as many fruit trees as we can. Here in rural Portugal, the cost of land is a lot cheaper than it is in the UK. Another reason we moved to Portugal is the food here is excellent. Not just the food we grow, but the food you get everywhere here. In the cafes, the restaurants, the shops, it's good quality local food. It's late October and we're still picking aubergines that are growing outside. I think I'm going to make an aubergine and bean chilli for dinner
Found a wee
tonight.
tiny courgette.
Great. Oh look at that. Mini courgette. A couple of aubergines. There's another decent aubergine over there.
Oh yeah, missed that one.
I bet you couldn't tell me a variety of Portuguese cheese. If someone says Spanish cheese to you, then you say manchego. Loads of French cheeses that everyone knows. Brie, camembert, Roquefort. But a Portuguese cheese? Have you ever heard of a Portuguese cheese? But there are loads of magnificent Portuguese cheeses made by small cheese makers all over the country. Goat's cheeses, sheep's cheeses, cow's milk cheeses. One of my favourites are the cheeses from the Azores, the São Miguel and what's the other one?
São Jorge.
São Jorge and São Miguel from the Azores. We first discovered Portuguese cheeses in the Azores. Meraid and I spent 3 months sailing round the Azores on a small sailing boat. We're big fans of goat's cheeses as well. Carlos, our friend in the village, has a herd of about 40 goats and they are milked for our locally made cheese. The Portuguese wine is absolutely fantastic.
You may notice that Dan talks a lot about vegetables and cheese. That's because he's a vegetarian and I'm not. Sardines, chicken, peri-peri chicken, cooked at the local market is one of my favourite things. It's just such a simple way of cooking food here that makes the difference.
Good quality ingredients cooked simply. We've ducked in out of the rain. It seems to be a good time to bring up the next reason why we moved to Portugal. We wanted to live in a warmer climate, a sunnier climate, where we could grow a wide variety of fruit and vegetables. We wanted to live somewhere with 4 seasons: a winter, a spring, a summer and an autumn.
I'm from the west coast of Ireland, where it rains about 375 days of the year. I've always hated the rain, but now I absolutely love it. Every time I see rain, there's 2 reasons I enjoy it. Number 1, it's watering the land. And number 2, I don't have to do too much work. You would not believe the speed that things can grow here. You really wouldn't believe it.
The ground is so warm all year round, with a bit of water, everything just starts growing. We're learning how to adapt our growing to this climate. We will hopefully get better every year.
The rain is getting very heavy now, so I think we'll just stop for a moment and get back to you when it eases. But for now, why don't you just enjoy a little bit of rain? I think that's enough.
What have you been up to?
My latest
What have you been up to?
my latest obsession with catching rainwater.
So it's a new day, and another reason why we moved to Portugal is a pretty big reason. The people here, they are so warm and friendly and welcoming and patient and kind. The acts of kindness and generosity have been enormous and overwhelming. In our last village, we would come home and there'd be bags of fruit and vegetables left on the doorstep.
Before we left the old village and moved here, our neighbours gave us gifts of a fig tree and a sweet chestnut tree and a physalis to help us on our way at the Quinta.
We got them all planted here, and we'll remember the first village we lived in Portugal by these trees and remember the people.
I mean, I was growing pots on the, because we didn't have a garden in the first rented village, so I put pots of chilies and tomatoes out in kind of the little village square, just on a wall.
And we had, you had window boxes of flowers.
Yeah, oh, what about that for the story? So we used to go away, and the first weekend we came here, we watered all the plants and took our chances. So we were here Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and by Monday I thought the plants will survive until Monday and then I'll water them again. But when I came back, I noticed that all the plants had been watered, freshly watered. I discovered who it was and I thanked them. However, a few months later,
we came up here for a week.
For a whole week. Although I watered the plants, the tomatoes and the chilies, and I knew the neighbours would look after those and the succulents that were outside. Yeah, and they said they would look after them. I had window boxes, came back, and I said to Dan, I said, I don't think they'll have survived, you know, but we just have to take the hit. It was more important to get here and do the work. And when I came back, I went to water them and I thought, gosh, they look really good. And I went to water them and I noticed, my goodness, they've been watered. But the thing I need to tell you about these window boxes, they were 2 stories high. And I discovered that my 65-year-old neighbour had taken a ladder out and climbed up to the top of the ladder to water them because she couldn't bear to see them die. She thought they were beautiful, and I was just blown away. We both wanted to learn a language, but I really wanted to learn a new language in a country that they speak the language. The way I learn best is by immersion, and I am not afraid to try the language. I make a lot of mistakes, and I've noticed that everybody that I have contact with all of my efforts, they take the time, they correct me when I'm wrong and help me along. So the patience is wonderful. Kindness and patience.
The Portuguese
patience
are
is wonderful.
Gentle, kind, generous, honest.
Accepting. Very accepting.
Welcoming. One of the things we wanted when we came to Portugal was a property with some woodland so that we can spend our time chopping firewood rather than spending our time earning money to pay for gas to heat the house. I find splitting firewood quite enjoyable and almost addictive. Yeah, there's something very satisfying and comforting about splitting your own firewood. Moving to Portugal and buying a rural property gave us a very good reason to buy a pickup truck. This is a Nissan Datsun 1720 from 1985 and it's strong as an ox. It's still going strong and it will keep us going for many years to come. We could do with some off-road tyres so we can get down to the bottom of the land and more importantly back up with all the firewood we've been splitting, but that's for another day.